Welcome to this episode of the Dirt on Dating Show. I'm Noah, and today we're going to take a glimpse into what it's like to date Carlos. So
Oh
Carlos
no.
is Carlos is a co-founder at Jiggler. Is it Jigger or Jiggler? Jiggler, right?
Jiggler, yeah.
Okay, I got it right. All right, so Carlos is a co-founder at Jiggler, a new dating app. He's a long-term digital nomad since way before it was cool, and he's currently living in Buenos Aires. Welcome to the show, Carlos. How are you?
All good, Noah. Thank you very much. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. So let's give everyone just a little bit of a background on Carlos. So you're in a relationship now, long-term relationship. How long have you been in this relationship? And, just walk us through a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, that is true. I'm in a long-term relationship, 3 years going strong now, which is a new record, by the way. A bit of background with me. I've been, like you said, a digital nomad from before that was cool. So I've been living in, how many now? 9 countries over the last 5 years. Doing kind of longer stays than just like the typical backpackers. And of course, there's been some dating fun along the road for that. Eventually, I ended up in Georgia, and that's where me and my co-founders started this new dating app, Jiggler. We were all kind of like together with the idea of being tired of the typical dating apps and how they're all like becoming pretty much all the same, and the way you meet people is pretty much the same, and the way you talk to people is pretty much the same. So we just wanted to have fun with it and do something new, and well, I'm pretty excited to be here talking to you about it now.
Yeah, very cool. I'd love to get in and talk a lot about, the what goes into building a dating app and the stories that you find as you start to onboard users. You get to hear their stories and hopefully some success stories of people matching. But before that, tell us a quick story about how you actually started your relationship.
My relationship, that's a fun story actually, because and this one doesn't take place in Georgia, the state. This takes place in Georgia, the country, which is sort of like in the middle of Russia, Iran, Turkey, like pretty wild region of the world. And I happened to be there poor and with no glasses because a good friend of mine just decided to punch me in the face one day. I don't know, man. I rocked up dating the optics chick, and we're together ever since.
Wow. So did you get a chance to see her before you started dating her, or was it all just blurry?
She was blurry for most of the time, but by the end of the first session, she wasn't, and that's where she got me.
And you've been with her through 3 years since, so we can't blame it on that.
Yeah, she can blame it on that. Maybe she thought I looked better without my glasses. Who knows? But yeah, like that was a fun one, especially when you're in the middle of such a place where they don't even use the same alphabet as us, and everything is just like straight out of a Star Wars film. So it's cool to to touch base.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think flesh is flesh, right? And it's like if you get body to body communication, it's transcends language. And so I think
that's what I did, man. Like I just went straight to the optics and I said, flesh is flesh.
Yeah. So now let's flash forward a little bit. Jiggler. Now, is it like when you first hear the name, I'm thinking like, is it for gigolos?
not for gigolos. It's Jiggler with a J, such as like jiggle, but with an R in the end. And no, it's not for gigolos. It's just that we just like the name. Originally, we had a way different name, but like stuff happened and we rocked up with this one, and we're very happy with it because it allows us to do like a lot of fun things with it. It's got that catchy.
Yeah. So tell me more. What kind of fun things do you do with the app? Like why and first off, like why did you want to make the app in the first place? Tell us that story of like the inception of seeing like there's something wrong with the dating world, dating scene, how people connect, and and just because it takes a lot to build an app. It's a big commitment. And I think there has to be some motivation behind that besides just like, oh, wouldn't this be fun?
I think we all, I mean, the whole team, I think we all kind of just thought that we could make a dating app just like this. And then it turned out that you don't make a dating app just like this. But we were excited about the prospect of doing so because, well, it's a small team, but very close together that we have. And we have people with background in technology. And, you know, we sort of had the right mix of like enthusiasm and expertise to get started, and then we kind of like just started trying to nail it from there. And it all basically came from all of us being tired of traditional, let's call it, like, I don't need to name names, you all know who I'm talking about, of the big dating apps, because we were more and more starting to feel like they're just trying to sell you a product, they're just trying to get you as fast as possible to get the paid version. And they sort of fall on this same trend that, for example, social media apps do, right? Like they're just trying to keep you a little bit addicted to them. So we all felt like it's not really a reflection of how ideally we think dating online should be, like dating in real life, but easier. But it turns out like the two processes are not really too connected. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I know for my circumstance, in my experience, and also a lot of the people that come on the show, there's a strong avoidance to dating apps because of the time commitment that goes into it. Yes, there's convenience that you can pick it up and swipe and find someone, but the amount of filtering and the amount of just like all the problems that come with it, catfishing, you've got a lot of ghosting, you've got a lot of just like dead conversations, and all of that makes it something that people, it's almost like a lot of the guests on the show, they almost like regret the fact that they're using a dating app in the first place because of all of those issues, you know, and there's a little bit of shame tied with it. And, you know, how do you feel about all that? Like what have you found?
Well, it's funny because we were talking about this the other day, you know, with I basically talked to whoever would listen to me about the app, of course. And I was talking about this with someone, and this girl, she told me, you know, I just cannot take people seriously if I met them through a dating app. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a big problem, isn't it? Like, because you're obviously there to meet people. And if you yourself find that you're falling into this bias, that you're not treating the people you meet through dating apps like real people even, then you're sort of like, I mean, it's counterproductive, isn't it? This is what we've been trying to replicate. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but what we try to go for is sort of like this process of catching a glimpse of someone, you know, like being interested in them first, and then having to go a little bit deeper to get invested, right? To invest your time in people. And I think this is what we all want, right? Like we're all there because we want connection. We don't, well, obviously there is the hooking up part, and that part is a lot of fun as well. But in the end of the day,
you want the physical connection, and then you want, you know, the idea of feeling like you're validated, like somebody cares about you. And I think those two, especially as we're entering this world of like, there's so much distraction and so much validation. Sometimes you just want that you know, the validation from a stranger that says, oh, I'm attractive.
Exactly. And you want that to feel real, you know, because then this was a fun part of the process, you know. Of course, since we were starting with the dating app, we kind of like just paid for every paid dating app in the market to see what the experience was in all of them. For example, on Tinder, you have the Tinder Gold features, which pretty much tell you, well, they allow you to see who liked you
Mm-hmm.
So then you go into your likes. Let's say you have 17 likes, right? And you feel so validated,
Yeah.
like right there, like, oh, all these women like me. But then you kind of like something switches, right? Like it's like then you start working for that validation,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want that either. And they do, like these apps, they want you to work for this validation and to get you kind of a little bit addicted. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I myself am a little bit anti social media, so yeah, that's sort of like the thing I don't want in my life.
Right. And so I'm curious because there is a certain level of dancing with the devil that you have to do in order to understand, and fully develop, like, the customer, understand what the customers are going through. So you have to do all that customer development, and you have to just get your hands dirty. You have to go in there, embrace all the other apps out there on the market, like you said, get there, do your research. So in that process, I'm curious just to see, how your partner was supportive in this process. Like,
She
was
wasn't.
was it right? Because you had
She
to be on there
wasn't.
swiping. How did she deal with that?
Well, some of the sort of like the way to deal with it, because I'm not going to tell you like, and I think it's a very legitimate thing for a partner to think, right? Like, okay, you have Tinder on your phone. Are you sure you're just using that for work? And I'm like, I swear I'm working. But like everything in relationships, you have to be open about it. You have to talk about it. And sometimes she was there, right there, just swiping with me because that was the only way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So, for our listeners, like our listeners are seriously looking at different ways that they can date better, date smarter, and have a proactive approach to improving themselves along the journey so that they can become a better catch. What insights have you learned from experimenting with all of these other apps as well as creating your own? Even like some of the user feedback and stuff like that. What like actionable things have you learned that people listening can put into place to really have the best chances at online dating?
Okay, I'm gonna ask for I'm gonna give you a little test.
All right.
How much do you think the average, let's say, Bumble, Tinder, OkCupid, whatever user spends on the app, like in one go,
Mm.
nonstop?
Like lifetime value?
No, not lifetime value. Like you, from the time you open the app to the time that you get distracted, you close it, you go to something else. In
Oh,
one,
time,
let's
like
say,
the amount of time, not
yeah,
monetary value. Okay. So I would say 15 minutes.
15 minutes is more around one.
One. Okay.
Yeah, because we all get distracted. I mean, like we're all crazy distracted, and our attention spans are down on the floor because of social media and because we have a world crisis in every
Yeah.
possible sense. And this is a distracting world. So if you have people for 30 seconds on, let's say, a website, I'm a marketer by profession. Um, if you have people for 30 seconds on your website, you're on a good track.
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds. People are spending 5 minutes on the app right now in one go. I mean, before they get a WhatsApp and they open it or before they go to something else. And the reason I think that is, and that this is like the real lesson we found here, is that they're liking this process that we have inside the app where people have to work a bit to see each other's pictures, to get information and to give information. So I think if you have that process, which you do have in real life, if I'm sitting here on a date, I know that if I ask a question, well, the other person might have to ask a question back. You have to have this ping pong back and forth between people so things get somewhere, ideally somewhere good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I really liked learning from this app, that you can replicate this process online. And then the other thing is that people are way more open to admitting that they clicked on a Pornhub ad when the ad is good.
What kind of ads do you run on Pornhub?
So I'm allowed to be graphic here, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is the dirt
Okay.
on dating show. We want dirt, man.
We want the dirt. Like we can do without the dating, but we want the dirt. Um, so basically, if you go into Pornhub, it's very likely that all the ads you see are basically like these animated penises, like huge, or it's like these creatures where it's like some sort of like a porn game where you have to do something that isn't very clear on the ad, but you have these monster women, because like they're literally monsters, right? Like they're like these fantasy creatures with huge boobs, and maybe they have 4 of them and they're tentacles, and it's like it's like a horrifying thing. So, and I've always wondered, who the fuck clicks on those ads, man? Like, how do you even sell something through there? But then we started noticing, okay, it's always the same ads, so people are clicking on them because
Mm-hmm.
this means they're profitable. But of course, we were not gonna do that shit. So we started doing. We wanted to stand out. We wanted to do ads that you would say, okay, that's a way nicer ad than I would expect to see on a porn. Well, on Pornhub, right, on
Yeah.
a porn site. So we used to. We were trying to play with these, these peach emojis, these cucumber emojis, these aubergine emojis, and because the app's name is Jiggler, that gives us a lot of. We can pretty much put any jiggling thing on an ad, and we were trying to make them a bit cute, a bit like something like, okay, this is like something nicer than I was expecting to see on a dating app. Might want to learn something. So far, it's worked. We're happy with that part.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of the hymns ad. You know, that direction of a little cheeky but still classy. You know,
Which one?
hymns. It's like they make the like the ED pills for like erectile dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah, so they have a sort of a very minimalistic kind of thing with their ads that are it's pretty solid, And yes, I have seen them on Pornhub before as well. So, yeah,
Okay.
right on. That's fantastic. So, getting back to that, I feel like we got a lot about what makes Jiggler so different and just kind of some of the stats and stuff. But when it comes to actually just like things that the average person can do to date better, like whether that is put more interesting pictures or like you know showcase their hobbies or something, what have you found that actually works really well?
In particular, when it comes to apps, right?
Yeah, for online dating in general.
Okay. On dating. Okay. You cannot, obviously, you cannot divorce from pictures. Like, in the end of the day, we all are visual creatures. We are on our phones, which is a visual media. Like, pictures are super important. And to this, actually, we run these ideas to how to make it easier for users through a dating coach that specializes on online dating. And his recommendations were, of course, if you're I'm going to generalize here because there's no way of not generalizing here, especially because we do look at the stats. If you're a woman, an heterosexual woman, you're trying to date men, heterosexual men, and we're very visual creatures. So, of course, if you are hot and you show it, you're going to have good results. For men, we are also, as we found, very interested in girls with different pictures, because most of the time you would see typical mistakes like selfies. Apparently people just do not like selfies. So if you're listening to this podcast and you want to get one word of advice, is don't use selfies on your dating profile. People don't like them, especially when you have like 6 of them and they're all from the same angle. That doesn't really help. And for guys, for heterosexual guys, well, this applies to, as we found, this applies to guys, both any preference,
So
basically.
straight, gay, bi, all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. For guys, it's important to mix it,
Mm.
because people are gonna, and this goes both for women and for gay guys and all across the spectrum. It turns out when they're looking at guys' profiles, they're spending more time swiping through all the different photos and linking
Mhm.
and reading the whole bios and everything. So you kind of want to give people an experience in there, and you want to catch their attention as fast as you can. Remember that at best they're going to spend 5 minutes on the app in one sitting, so they don't want to waste their time, and they're not going to. So you have to give them something good at first, and then keep feeding them stuff that they might like. So first picture might be your beach body, and
Mm.
then you with your dog, and next some of your hobbies and everything. You want to sell the whole package basically.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think a lot of what do you think? You said start with the beach body. A lot of girls they say that they just don't like seeing a shirtless pic in the beginning. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't think anything. I've looked at the data, and that's a total bullshit. Most people, when they have a picture on the beach as their first picture, most people get clicks to see the next picture.
There you go. There
So,
you go.
so they beat the hook.
A lot of times also when someone is saying that, it's usually coming from a place of perceived judgment. So there's like this identity that they think they're supposed to have, and so when they say that I don't like a shirtless pic first, it's because they don't want to be perceived as someone who's pursuing uh, physical pleasure instead of the emotional connection. And I think that's something that, like, I'm hoping that through this show we can sort of normalize, like, wanting to get laid is normal. And I think wanting a connection is also normal. And I think there's a sort of a balance between both. So interesting, like, as we're I know we're working towards wrapping up, and I do want to get like some nice juicy stories from your personal experience as well. But I do want to just kind of comment for the listeners out there that sometimes I do chat about how dating apps are a little bit, dangerous, or they can be a waste of time at times. But I really do have to say that I have made most of my friends and lovers have come from dating apps, and the strongest connections that I have, like, period, have come from dating apps. It's really bizarre when you think about it. Like, my main well my now current lover is we met on Tinder 3 years ago, over 4 years ago. And we've
Okay.
stayed lovers. We've had breaks, we've come back, and that connection has been really strong. I've had some other connections that I've met on Bumble. We've done friend thing, and now we're still really, really strong friends. And so, yeah, I think dating apps are really powerful, and I think that if used well, that you can meet some really good people. So, Carlos,
They're a big part of our life right now. I mean, and especially when we all had to, I mean, we all have this thought these days, right? Like, I'm going to be in my house forever. So now we were all thinking that, and it's okay. Like, maybe some people never tried working online. Now you're thinking about what would my life be like if I worked online. Maybe some people haven't dated online, and now you're thinking, okay, maybe I should give it a try. And yeah, as you say, you can meet, even if you don't want to meet your next lover on Jiggler or another app. You can make friends. You can even network. You can get. I've networked through dating apps. At the end of the day, it's people, right? And people are sort of like lottery tickets. You can get anything from people, and you should ideally try to give all you can to people.
yeah, very well said. Yeah, like that lottery ticket example is a really good idea. Sometimes you just hit the jackpot, but you got to play
Yeah,
to do it.
and sometimes, like, well, pretty well like a lottery ticket, you can meet 11 people and they're and feel like it was a waste of time, but
Mm.
then that 12th person that was worth it is worth it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so as we're working towards wrapping up, share a story with us of a time that you had a juicy adventure in your dating life, and perhaps it was one that taught you a lesson, or something that opened your eyes in a way that you didn't expect.
Okay, so we were talking about and you were just talking about this here, and we were talking about this off air. We were talking about how you found out about how diverse people actually are and how wild we all are really inside, and how it's very cool that people are opening more.
It's pretty nerve-wracking, I can imagine. All right, so final question. What is the advice that you would give your younger self as you're hitting the dating world?
The advice I would give my younger self, okay. How young are we talking here? I'm buying time.
Let's say 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay, don't be a pretentious fuck. Like, just acknowledge that you are a quirky person, and we all like quirky people as long as they are open about it and they don't make a big deal about it. So just be quirky, man. Some people are not gonna like it, but you don't like those people anyways. Don't fool yourself into thinking you do, because you don't.
Wise words, man, for sure. Carlos, it's been awesome having you on the show. So how do people stay in touch with you? How do people download the app and all that?
Wait, well, the easiest way to stay in touch with me is through. I was not prepared for this question. Let me just tell you about the app. Well, they can always message us at the app's Instagram. I run that one. So I'll personally reply to anything that comes through there, especially if it has like, hey, I saw you on Noah's podcast and I wanted to talk to you. I'm there, I'm replying, I see everything. Uh, the Instagram account is Jiggler Dating App. At Jigglr Dating App is Jiggler, Jiggler, and the app, well, it's called Jiggler, and you can find it on the App Store. We are working on the Android version. It's not quite ready yet, but it would be soon. And we hope you enjoy it. If you have some feedback, let us know. We are big enough that you will have a good time on the app right now, but small enough that we read every single piece of feedback that we get. So we'd be super happy to hear from anyone.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool. All right, Carlos, thanks for being on the show.
Man, thank you very much for having me here. It was really fun. You got me sweating for a second.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. It's been a blast. Don't forget to swing by Apple. There's 2 things that you can do there. 1, leave us a 5-star review. Let us know how we're doing. And 2, subscribe to the show. So the more downloads we get, the more you share the show, then the more other people can find it. And that helps us keep growing. So with that, thanks for tuning in. And if you want to be featured on the show, visit dirtondating.com/single. Introduce yourself and tell us your story. That's it for this one. We'll see you tomorrow.